up, Ram fans? Welcome back to Monday Night Sports. I'm Madeline Davis.
And I'm Ella Fredrikson, here to, like always, get you caught up on what happened over the weekend in the world of Colorado athletics, from here in FOCO and beyond. Plus, looking back at what was an insane ending across campus in Moby on Friday.
To Cam hopping back on the TV to give you everything you need to know about the NBA's upcoming trade deadline.
And of course, how could we forget about Out of Pocket, which ends off the night with a brand new set of topics. All of that and more on CTV Sports, which starts right now.
After back-to-back disappointing losses to the Rebs and the Pokes, the Rams came into Moby on Friday night with a point to prove and a vengeance to be had in what was this year's Orange Out matchup. Facing off against the San Diego State Aztecs, a team that handed them their first L of the season back in early January. After their recent slide down the Mountain West rankings, a win on Friday was crucial for the CSU program. And that's exactly what they did, taking care of business against their West Coast rivals in a close one, 58-57. As the score suggests, this one came down to the wire, with the best action occurring in the last 30 seconds of the game. CSU held a strong 23-18 advantage over the Aztecs at the half, putting them in a great position to close things out and assert their will heading into the second. And once again, they came through with just that, putting in a strong start to the second to score 24 points in the first 10 minutes, which put them up 19 against SDSU as the final stretch of the matchup took center stage. But unlike many times this season, the Rams couldn't put the visitors away, and it all started to unravel from there. From that 10-minute mark on, the Aztecs went on to score 31 points to close the massive gap, including an 8-0 run with 2 minutes left to cut things within 2. Thanks to several turnovers from the home squad. And with things so tight at the end, you just have to see what happened to believe it. Let's take a deeper look at that final sequence in front of what was a sellout crowd in Moby. So as you can see here, we got Isaiah Stevens. He passes it to Roddy, calls over Tanjay. Tanjay goes up but gets blocked by SDSU. Roddy tries to tip it back in but doesn't make it. Now it's an SDSU ball. They're getting down the court. They have about 30 seconds. It's now a one-possession game. Remember, CSU was up by 20 at one point. Butler gives it to Bradley, and if SDSU wants anyone, they want Bradley. He goes up, misses it. SDSU keeps the possession, hands it off to Lamont Butler, who sinks it in for 3 to give SDSU their first lead of the game with only 13 seconds left on the clock. Stevens comes down, does the back pass to Roddy, makes the jumper for 2, gives CSU the lead once again, but we're not done yet. There's still 6 seconds left on the clock. There's still enough time for SDSU to come down and get a shot off. Butler tries there, hits the glass. James Morse with the block. The Rams win 58-57. Everyone storms the court. Wow. I was there on the court when it happened, but that sequence of events still has me speechless. How did the green and gold almost lose that one? Especially with how well they controlled the pace and led for all but 5 seconds throughout the night. But in any event, they took home the dub, and that's all that matters. Here's what the hero for CSU, David Roddy, had to say about the crucial block from teammate James Morse in the final seconds.
A little bit, initially I couldn't see James in my first race, so it was just, number 4 and Bradley together. I was like, I need somebody else to come over. So James stepped up, and it was a huge wall up, and we got the rebound and we won the game. So it was a great execution on defense.
And sure, while many San Diego fans are complaining about that final call, or really no call, maybe it was the lack of shooting and high number of turnovers that really cost the Aztecs this game. Not a single play where James Morse made an amazing, and I feel like clean block to save the Rams in the end. The Aztecs didn't even really deserve to be in that position, so I don't even want to hear it. Further illustrating this point is the stat sheet, which shows how terrible the road squad was on this offense in this one, with SDSU only going 19 for 63 on field goals for an embarrassing 30.2 overall field goal percentage. The Rams, on the other hand, while they were still far from perfect on the offensive side, shot substantially better than the Aztecs with a 40.8 mark from the field. When you put this in combination with the nearly 20-point lead CSU held before squandering it away and about the worst case scenario for them inbounding the ball imaginable, it's clear to see that the better team won on Friday. And moving on to the individual accolades, while it was a bit of an off night for Isaiah Stevens, to say the least, with only 4 points on 1 of 8 shooting, the Rams once again can thank their depth for showing up and helping them grind out this victory. David Roddy led the team in points, rebounds, and assists, like the superstar he is with 22, 9 and 4. While fellow classmate John Tonje, who got his second start of the season, also had a productive night, scoring 16 points and going 3 for 4 from behind the arc. And redshirt sophomore James Moores also had a solid outing, coming off the bench to score 10 and secure 8 rebounds, and of course make that crucial block on Mac Bradley to secure the win for CSU. Now, even with the W, the Rams are always looking to improve some of their numbers and will surely look to finish things out stronger next time. But overall, no matter how it got done, this was a much-needed win for this program, putting them in a solid place heading into this week's slate, which includes a rematch against Nevada tomorrow in Reno, before shifting things back to Moby for a battle against Fresno State on Friday. And sure, while these aren't cakewalks by any means, they're both definitely winnable games. So let's hope this squad keeps it up and starts to build another win streak. So, I don't know about you, but that was a really special game for me. I met Jenny Kavnar.
No, it was a special game. I mean, coming into tip-off, I was not confident, but there's nothing to argue. The Rams came away with the win. I was happy to see they used that bench more than they did back in January when they took that big loss. That depth really helped them come through this time. And that finish, I mean, come on. That's always fun to see.
Gotta love it.
And with that one finally out of the way, let's talk about some CSU women's hoops. Over the weekend, the Lady Rams took a trip down to the Springs to take on their in-state rivals, the Air Force Falcons. And our preview from Leah last Thursday on the matchup said it best. Simply put, this is a team we should have beaten. But sadly for CSU faithful, this wasn't the case, with the Rams losing their second in a row to drop to 14-7 on the year. And now, when you take a short glance at the box score on this one, the 63-67 L for the green and gold doesn't quite add up. Let me fill you in a little on why. Against the Falcons, CSU and their normal stars came up big, with Upe Atasu dropping her second highest point total of the season with a strong 23, and McKenna Hofschild turning into an automatic machine with 17. Down by the post, Carly Murphy did what she does game in and game out, coming through with 15 boards to lead the Rams. And not only did Coach Williams' big three put up these solid numbers, but the Rams actually led for almost the whole game, falling short in just the last 2 minutes of action. A very similar script to what happened in the men's game on Friday. And with that, something had to have switched up, right? Let's break down where this game fell through CSU's fingers a little bit more. In the first quarter, the green and gold shooting percentages looked okay from three, but a little rough everywhere else, though still manageable. Following this initial quarter, though, is where things really started to get shaky on both ends of the court for the visitors. And when their chance came to finish the game strong rolled around, CSU went 0 for 3 from downtown, not to mention that almost 85% of their scoring opportunities just ran cold, which gave the Falcons just enough time to get back into things and eventually take the jump. And although the final deficit only ended up being 4, everything points at the fact that it could have been a much larger gap for CSU. The Rams got bullied in the paint 36-24. I mean, Carly Murphy had over half of this team's rebounds. And all of this was going on while the green and gold gave up 15 points on turnovers alone, 7 of which coming in the fourth where it really mattered the most. This average Air Force team didn't really play better than they normally do, but they took advantage of Colorado State mistakes and capitalized more on their opportunities than the Rams did. Now, whether this complete choke by CSU is due to the fact that they weren't in Moby or simply because of an off day where their open looks just weren't dropping, I don't know. But I do know that something needs to change in a hurry, especially when it comes to the level of consistency and intensity when starting the second half of the season. If this squad wants any chance to make some noise at the Mountain West tournament, they have to find a way to complete a game, instead of a three-quarter barrage followed by a final few-minute collapse. And with this in mind, come Wednesday, the Rams return to campus to take on Utah State once again, but this time on more familiar turf for this team's version of the Orange Out. And due to the momentum that Moby always brings in the 3-game losing streak the visiting Aggies hold, the Rams have to use this one to get back into a rhythm and look like the squad we all know and love from earlier this season. Madeline, help me make sense of all of this up and down play from the Lady Rams as of late.
Yeah, Ella, I was pretty shocked once again. They lost to Air Force earlier in the season and they lost again. I mean, Those are 2 games they should have won.
I don't know if it was a mindset coming into this one, like, hey, we already lost, we don't know if we can take it, or if it was honestly just sloppy, not being able to finish the game on their own terms. It just didn't work out.
It really didn't. I don't know. Pretty disappointing. But now moving on to a team that did not disappoint this weekend, moving from the basketball court as well as the track, and now talking about a program that doesn't get enough credit week in and week out for just how good they are. That's right, we're serving you up some tennis talk about CSU's women's team, who just got their winter slate started a few weeks ago. The Rams were at home this weekend for their matchup against Metro State to kick off home court play. How'd they do? Well, needless to say, they did pretty well, with the Rams, who were sitting at 2-1 in dual play this season, absolutely dominating on Saturday down at the Fort Collins Country Club, completing a clean 7-0 sweep over their adversaries from down in Denver. And as the final indicates, CSU was very consistent across the board, only dropping 2 games throughout their 3 doubles matches. For one doubles, Summer Dalabanya and Sarka Riktorova won their set 6-0, while Tracy Go and Lucia Natal bageled their opponents as well at 3 dubs. And with this pair of victories already under the belt, the Rams' only ranked team, Radka Bushkova and Matija Mahalovic, ended up finishing things off rather lacklusterly, at least for their standards, dropping 2 games to apparently the best pair the Roadrunners had to offer. But luckily for head coach Miley Tran and crew, it didn't matter, with the star duo still able to secure the set with a score of 6-2, which placed the Rams in a great spot heading into the singles slate. And here, as things went solo, things were much of the same for the green and gold, with the Rams dominating there as well, thanks to a 6-0 mark in these one-on-one matchups that propelled them to an easy overall victory. The only real spot that seemed to give the home team a little bit of trouble was 4 singles, with Mahalovic dropping the second set 1-6 after winning the first set 6-3, before roaring back into the tiebreak to secure the win with a final combination of 6-3, 1-6, 10-3. And through all of the triumphs for CSU down at the Country Club, the stage also provided a great home debut for freshman and CSU newbie Sarah Weekly, who competed in the 6 single spot this weekend, winning her match 6-1, 6-0. Here's what Weekly had to say about her first home match as a Ram. Predictably, it was a lot of happy feels for the first year, saying, "It felt great and it was good to come out and play like this. Winning that match feels good." After this successful outing, CSU hopes to ride this sweep into their next pair on their schedule when they continue dual play this Friday night against the Gonzaga Bulldogs right back in the Fort Collins Country Club at 7 p.m. And listen here, Rams, these girls are great at what they do, and you should really be keeping up with how they do over the course of the season. You won't be disappointed with how things turn out.
And switching things up once more, let's leave the world of tennis and move on to the game everyone is looking forward to over the weekend, Super Bowl 56. Now, even if you're not a big football fan, I'm sure you're aware of the upcoming battle against the Cincinnati Bengals and Los Angeles Rams, which will decide which one of these championship-hungry franchises will take home that Lombardi trophy. As of now, the spread sits at 4 points in favor of LA, the squad who, like Tampa Bay last year, got lucky enough to end up with essentially a home game entering their biggest test of the season. Even if the LA fans are, well, a bit fair-weathered to say the least. And when you try to break down why the betting line shook out this way, you have to first look at the respective signal callers, who are both relatively fresh to the teams they were able to lead past their conference championship games and to the very end. On one side, you have Joe Burrow, Joe Burr, Joe Shiesty, however you know that man, who is the natural underdog. And opposing him is the man who has just been dying for a ring over the course of his 13-year career, or really just any playoff success, Matthew Stafford. And with both having to battle their way through the defending opponents, no matter who the QBs were in this one, it was going to be a game. And sure, while I love the NFL and wish I could go down the list and analyze every single starter for you, I unfortunately just don't have the time. But I can still give you a few that will dictate who comes out on top in this one. Beginning with that dominant Rams defense, which all starts with that monster that is Aaron Donald. Number 99 is arguably one of the best players in the entire National Football League. And although defensive tackles can sometimes turn into more of gap fillers and less of playmakers, Donald finds a way to not only blow up the opposing team's running game, but also whip guards and tackles in the pass rush arena. To demonstrate this guy's greatness, listen to this. He's only been in the NFL for 8 years, and he's already won Defensive Player of the Year 3 times. Given the struggles this Cincinnati O-line has shown throughout the season, the star D lineman could carry LA to victory single-handedly. And on the other side of the coin for the Rams, you've got number 10, Cooper Kupp, who's really become a household favorite to watch over the course of this season. The best wide receiver in the NFL, at least stat-wise, played a huge part in bringing them this far, even getting his name in a few MVP conversations by leading the league in catches, yards, and touchdowns. The first triple threat crown winner at wideout since Steve Smith all the way back in 2005. Once him and Stafford got on the same page, this blue and gold offense became nearly unguardable in critical downs and distances. And unfortunately, when it comes to the Bengals' chances of a W, keeping him quiet throughout the whole night is going to be a difficult task, and matching him offensively might be even harder. But who could maybe match him yard for yard, you ask? Well, I'm getting there. Shifting to Cincy's weapons on the other side, you're probably thinking, Ella, we don't need to hear about Jamar Chase again and how he's Offensive Rookie of the Year, and I could not agree more. So let's talk about T. Higgins, the Orange and Black's number 2 option at wide receiver. Now number 85 does get his fair credit, but for his 74 catches and over 1,000 yards in only 14 games, he's obviously not talked about enough. This man has become a huge contributor to the offense when you compare how things are now and his rookie season last year. And this entire offensive staff for Cincinnati can attest how much this man has been working in order to perfect his craft and become that receiver this team drafted to be only a few years ago. And with all of that being said, you wouldn't exactly find me surprised if this man was able to expose a weakness in the Rams' secondary past their star, Jalen Ramsey, and make a huge difference at this one. And last, but wow, certainly not least, we have the defensive end for the Bengals, Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard, who absolutely terrorized quarterbacks game in and game out during the historic run for the Bengals. With number 91 racking up team record 14 sacks this year and forcing 3 fumbles as well, and big number 94 wasn't far behind him, going for a solid 7.5 sack year as this squad's number 2 pass rush presence. And most importantly, acting as the difference in the team's AFC Championship victory, sacking Mahomes on back-to-back plays with little time left in the fourth quarter to force a field goal and eventually OT. Whew, that was a lot. But there's just so much to look forward to with this matchup, and I didn't even get to talk about the halftime show. Long story short, since I don't even know who I'll be rooting for in this one, my lovely boyfriend, who knows very little about sports, is being forced to watch with me. Which means, unfortunately for him, whatever team he's rooting for, I'm just going to have to pick the opposite. Wait until the end of the show to hear my take on who's going to win on Sunday.
And with that, Rams, now that you're ready for the big game, it's time for a quick break.
When we come back, Cam is back on the TV to break down the NBA trade deadline. You won't want to miss it.
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
How we doing tonight? My name's Cameron Evig, and I'm back after a week off for everybody's favorite part of the show, Cam's Corner. Well, if it isn't my favorite time of year, with the Super Bowl and the NBA trade deadline both going down in the same week, tonight I'll go over 3 trades that I think make sense throughout all of the transactions that will go down on and before Thursday, and let you know my opinion on each of the guys involved. All that and more on Cam's Corner, starting right now. As I told you at the top of the show, the NBA trade deadline is one of my favorite things to look forward to every year. And although my team, the Denver Nuggets, aren't expected to make a huge splash like they did around this time last year when they acquired Aaron Gordon, I still love to see the agreements that other teams end up working out. Shipping guys like Carmelo Anthony to the Knicks and Pau Gasol to the Lakers are two of my favorite trades. And for this year's trade block, one of the first deals that I think should happen is between the Wizards and the Pacers. And it's for no one else but Indiana star forward Domantas Sabonis, who's wanted out of there for a while. Now it's obvious after the Pacers traded away Karis LeVert to the Cavs that Indiana has officially entered into rebuild mode. And like the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have picks waiting for prospects who aren't even out of middle school yet, this squad is looking for assets through the draft, and more specifically, first-round picks. And although the Wizards can only offer one pick, which forces them to part ways with some young talent instead. Third-year man Rui Hachimura and rookie Corey Kispert definitely fit that bill. And on the other side, when we look at the trade value, we all know why this makes sense for DC. It's all about keeping their star, Bradley Beal, happy. And he's been begging for help ever since John Wall went down with his Achilles injury all the way back in 2018. Not to mention Russ skipping town only after one season as a Wizard. Of course, Sabonis, Beal, and Kyle Kuzma is definitely one that can compete in the East. And for the Pacers, they're taking on the expiring contract of Montrezl Harrell and some good young studs to start their rebuild process. In my eyes, it's a win-win for both sides. And after that, potential for some new exciting things in the nation capital, the next move that I would like to see go down at the deadline is one I like even more than the one before. And it involves getting Jeremy Grant out of a rebuilding Pistons squad. Now, while there have been rumors of CJ McCollum being potentially dealt out of Portland, finally, I think they should and can give the duo of McCollum and Lillard one more shot to chase a ring. And I think this time, one player that can push him over is Jeremy Grant, and he can act like a consistent scorer alongside Dame Dolla as well as CJ McCollum, something that the Blazers have been desperate for. It's really tough to give up Nasir Little, but he's been out, and this is exactly what they need to do if they ever want to make that next step, even if it's not this year. And for Detroit, you take on two expiring contracts that you can get rid of easily, all while grabbing a young player and a first-round pick. This makes a lot of sense to me, and I can definitely see it happening come Thursday. And finally, a deal that seemingly every NBA fan wants. It involves drama from one side and a terrible franchise on the other. That's right, it's between the Sixers and the Timberwolves for the disgruntled Ben Simmons. And although number 25 has a fair amount of haters right now, which is well-deserved, getting him out of Philly is the best thing for the squad currently. Not to mention the entire league. And hey, this trade is good for the big man as well, giving him a fresh start 1,300 miles away from the Sixers organization that burned him so much all the way up in Minnesota. This move not only gets Ben back on the court and back on his feet as a player, but it also makes the Timberwolves postseason contenders out of seemingly nowhere. And sure, while D'Angelo Russell hasn't quite lived up to star expectations expected of him after the Wolves grabbed him from Golden State, the dude can still be a great second or third option behind Embiid and Tobias Harris in Philly. And Josh Okogie is an up-and-coming 3D guy that can fit almost anywhere, which sweetens up the pot for the Sixers even more. And when you add a first-round pick into this equation, this should be more than enough to get the value to get Simmons out of Pennsylvania and into a change of scenery. Adding Ben to a core that already consists of Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, makes this team into one that can take a first-round playoff series, which would be the best finish this team has had in over 15 years. And with those proposals, we'll just have to wait and see what happens come deadline time. If I'm right with any of these three moves, I'll be happy. And that's all I have time for tonight, Rams. But be sure to stick around because we have pick'ems and out of pocket coming right up. Bye-bye.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably going to turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
What's up, Ram fans? We hope you enjoyed the break. Welcome back to another edition of Out of Pocket. It's been a few weeks now since we kicked this thing off, so let's just get right into it. First up on the docket tonight is a take that, frankly, I'm going to get real upset over. So unfortunately, here it is. So Cam, even as a CSU student and a guy who's literally on the floor at Moby almost every night covering the game, you think it isn't out of pocket to say that CSU is overrated? This is the best year they've had in like forever. Why would you even say that?
I mean, for me, CSU is just, they're a phenomenal team. Nobody's going to take that away from them, right? They have the potential to do things in the March Madness tournament. The games that they have won, though, it hasn't been too impressive, right? The games that they won, it's not like they're beating these top-tier teams consistently. They took a win over San Diego State, who, you know, a top-tier team in the Mountain West, but not one in the nation. You got wins like against Creighton and St. Mary's. Those are the wins that you can account for CSU being a good team. You got to beat somebody else. And the games against Alabama getting canceled really took a bad effect on CSU, because that could have been a game that easily helped them improve their ranking. But as of right now, the games that they have played, the ones that they have won, 7 of them have been by 2 possessions or less. And the games that they have lost, 2 of them have been blowouts. I just don't see enough consistency from this squad to say that they're a team that can go further than round 1 in March Madness.
Let me break out some more fun stats for you. So while I don't necessarily agree that CSU is going to go far in the tournament, I think that they'll make the tournament. And number one, I just think that I don't think CSU is overrated as much as the Mountain West is extremely underrated. If you look at the Mountain West right now, they have 6 teams within the top 56 in the net rankings. 6 teams. That's more than some of the big conferences.
Right.
The SEC only has 7.
Yeah.
The Mountain West just overall is just, it's a really strong conference, and people they just aren't acknowledging that right now. And also, you mentioned that win against St. Mary's. St. Mary's is currently ranked 19 in net rankings. So, I still think they're a pretty good team.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, I would never call CSU a bad team, but overrated, yes, whether that's a CSU fan base fault, the point of Mountain West being underrated, that very well could play into it, but that big game like Alabama being canceled, I think a win or loss to that team would have been a huge wake-up call to how much potential this roster truly has, but because it didn't happen, it's really, really hard to tell with certain wins and certain losses, but because we just haven't played those top 25 teams.
Understandable. But anyway, moving on from some... Well, I mean, I guess we're not technically moving on from some CSU basketball, but we're moving on from this argument over whether or not they're overrated. We're now moving into our pick'ems. And first up, we got CSU versus Fresno State. I think that all of these teams are actually performing really well right now. So I think it's going to be a tough one, but I'm still going with CSU. They're at home. I think they've got it.
No, absolutely. I mean, I agree with you. We've seen women play against Fresno State before, and that game went well, but unfortunately because of COVID issues, the men didn't get to play recently. Yeah. But I still am confident in the fact that we can take Fresno State, so that's why I'm going to have to pick CSU for this one.
I mean, as I said, I'm not confident in CSU for any of these games. Every single one of these games they can lose, as we saw against Nevada. They almost lost that one, as we saw against UNLV. My pick is still going to be CSU for this game, but I'm not confident in any of the games CSU plays after seeing what I've saw down the stretch from them in these last couple games.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for you tonight, Rams. Enjoy your Super Bowl weekend, and we'll catch you next week.